Now starting another original tale from Korafika Tales, an exclusive work from our publishing house, narrated by Joanne. Enjoy the story. He walked into a small bakery and saw his own eyes staring back at him. Twice. In two little girls he'd never met. The woman holding them froze. His ex-wife. The one who disappeared 3 years ago without a word. She was supposed to be gone. Safe. Forgotten. But now she's here, with children who look exactly like him, and a secret so devastating she'd rather die than tell him. He built an empire on fear. She built a life on silence. And in the next 60 seconds, both are about to shatter. What if the reason she left wasn't because she stopped loving him, but because she loved him too much to let him watch her die? Everything he thought he knew was a lie. And the truth? It's standing right in front of him, covered in flour, holding the only thing that ever mattered. The bell above the bakery door chimed softly. It was the kind of sound that didn't belong in his world. Gentle, unassuming, innocent. Jinwoo paused in the doorway, his black coat catching the afternoon light. The scent of warm bread filled the air. Sweet. Clean. Nothing like the smoke and steel he was used to. He hadn't planned to stop here. He was in Philadelphia for business. The kind that required silence, cash, and men who didn't ask questions. But his driver had pulled over for coffee, and Jinwoo, restless and distracted, had stepped out to breathe. The bakery was small. Charming. The kind of place that sold dreams wrapped in pastry. He almost turned around. Then he saw her. She stood behind the counter, her back to him, tying a white apron around her waist. Dark curls pulled into a loose bun, a dusting of flour on her forearms. She moved with the same quiet grace he remembered, efficient, focused, lost in the rhythm of her work. His chest tightened. No, it couldn't be. "Mama, can we have cookies?" The voice was small, sweet, curious. Jinwoo's gaze dropped. 2 little girls sat at a corner table, swinging their legs, coloring books spread before them. Identical faces, round cheeks, eyes so dark they looked like polished stone. His eyes. The world tilted. One of the girls looked up, and for a moment, just one impossible, breathless moment, Jinwoo forgot how to move. She smiled at him, shy and open, and his heart stopped. "Mama, there's a man." The woman at the counter froze. Her shoulders stiffened. The cloth in her hand slipped, hitting the floor with a soft thud. She didn't turn around. Didn't move. Didn't breathe. Jinwoo took a step forward. Amara. Her name fell from his lips like a prayer, like a curse. She turned slowly. And there she was. Amara. His Amara. The woman who had disappeared 3 years ago without explanation, without goodbye, without mercy. The woman he had searched for until his men came back empty-handed and his rage had turned cold. She looked different. Softer. Tired. There were shadows under her eyes that hadn't been there before. A thinness to her face that made her seem fragile. But her gaze, God, her gaze, was still steady. Still defiant. Still the only thing in the world that had ever made him feel small. Jinwoo. His name on her tongue was a wound reopening. "What are you doing here?" Her voice was low, controlled, but he heard the tremor beneath it. "I could ask you the same thing." His eyes moved to the girls. "Who are they?" Amara's jaw tightened. "Customers are waiting." "Don't." His voice cut through the warmth of the bakery like ice. "Don't pretend I'm a stranger." One of the girls slid off her chair and walked over, holding up a crayon drawing. "Do you like it?" Jinwoo looked down. The drawing was simple. A house, a tree, 2 stick figures holding hands. the kind of innocence that didn't exist in his world. "It's beautiful," he said quietly. The girl beamed. "I'm Isla, that's Ivy." She pointed to her sister, who watched from the table with wide, cautious eyes. "We're 3. 3. The number hit him like a fist to the chest. 3 years. He looked at Amara. "Are they? Go color, baby." Amara's voice was gentle but firm. She knelt down, brushing a hand over Isla's curls. "Mama needs to talk to the nice man." Isla nodded and skipped back to her sister. Jinwoo waited until they were out of earshot. "They're mine." It wasn't a question. Amara stood, wiping her hands on her apron. "You need to leave. Answer me." "Jinwoo." "Answer. Me." She met his gaze, and for the first time since he'd walked in, he saw fear, not of him, of something else, something deeper. "Yes," she whispered. "They're yours." The air left his lungs. "You were pregnant." His voice was hoarse. "When you left. You were carrying my children and you didn't tell me. I had my reasons." "Reasons?" The word came out sharper than he intended. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "You disappeared. Vanished. I tore this city apart looking for you. Do you know what I thought? That someone had taken you, hurt you, killed you. I'm sorry." "Sorry?" He laughed, bitter and cold. "You don't get to be sorry. You don't get to take my daughters from me and call it protection. They're safe here." Her voice cracked. "They're happy. They don't know what you are. What I am?" His eyes darkened. "I'm their father. You're a crime lord." The words hung between them like broken glass. "You're powerful and dangerous and untouchable, and I will not let my daughters grow up in that shadow. They already have my blood." His voice dropped to a whisper. "You can't outrun that." Amara's hands trembled. She hid them behind her back. "You need to go, please." "I'm not going anywhere." "Jinwoo, I will buy this building. I will buy this block. I will sit in this bakery every single day until you tell me the truth." He leaned in, close enough to see the pulse racing in her throat. "Why did you leave?" She looked away. "I can't tell you." "Can't or won't? Both." His jaw clenched. "I'm not the man you walked away from. I'm worse. And if you think I'll let you keep my children from me, you don't know me at all. I know you better than anyone." Her voice broke. "That's why I left." For a moment, neither of them moved. The girls laughed in the background, oblivious. The bell above the door chimed as another customer entered. The world kept turning, but between them, everything had stopped. Jinwoo straightened. "I'll be back tomorrow. Don't try to stop me." He turned and walked toward the door, every step feeling heavier than the last. His hand was on the handle when he heard her voice, small and shattered. "They don't know you exist." He froze. "I told them their father was gone, that he couldn't come back." She took a shaky breath. "Please don't make me a liar." Jinwoo looked over his shoulder. Amara stood in the middle of her small, warm, safe bakery, and for the first time, he realized she wasn't just tired. She was terrified. Not of him. Of losing. He didn't say anything. He pushed the door open and stepped out into the cold. But as he slid into the back of his car, his phone already in hand, his mind already working, one thought repeated over and over. She's hiding something. And he was going to find out what. Jinwoo didn't sleep that night. He sat in his penthouse suite, the city glittering below him like scattered diamonds, and tried to make sense of the impossible. Somewhere in Philadelphia, in a small bakery that smelled like cinnamon and safety, his daughters were asleep. Daughters he hadn't known existed. Daughters with his face, his blood, his legacy. And Amara, God, Amara, was still the only person who had ever looked at him and seen something other than fear. He pulled up the files his men had sent within hours of leaving the bakery. Amara Chen, 28 years old. Naturalized U.S. citizen. No criminal record. No red flags. She worked at Sweet Rise Bakery, a small family-owned shop in a quiet neighborhood. She lived above the bakery in a modest 2-bedroom apartment. The twins attended a nearby daycare 3 days a week. On paper, she was invisible. Exactly the way she'd wanted to be. Jinwoo set the tablet down and stared at the photo his men had included. A candid shot of Amara leaving the bakery, the girls holding her hands, all 3 of them laughing at something. She looked lighter than he remembered. Freer. And he hated that. He hated that she had built a life without him. That she had raised their daughters without him. That she had made the choice to erase him completely. But more than that, he hated the fear in her eyes when he'd walked into the bakery. Because it wasn't fear of him. It was fear for him. And that didn't make sense. The next morning, Jinwoo returned to the bakery. He arrived early, before the morning rush, and sat at the same corner table the girls had occupied the day before. The bakery was empty except for an older woman restocking pastries behind the counter. She glanced at him, smiled politely, and went back to work. Jinwoo waited. 15 minutes later, the door to the back room opened, and Amara stepped out, balancing a tray of fresh croissants. She didn't see him at first. She was humming something soft under her breath, her movements easy and familiar. Then she turned and froze. The tray wobbled. Jinwoo was on his feet in an instant, crossing the space between them and steadying it before it fell. Careful. What are you doing here? Her voice was barely above a whisper. I told you I'd be back. Jinwoo, you can't... Where are they? Daycare. She set the tray down, her hands trembling. You need to leave. Not until you tell me why. Why what? Why you left? He stepped closer. Why you hid them from me? Why you're so afraid? I'm not afraid of you. I know. His voice softened. That's what scares me. Amara looked up at him, and for a moment, the years fell away. She was 25 again, standing in his office, telling him she wanted out, telling him she couldn't be part of his world, telling him she loved him too much to watch him destroy himself. He had let her go. It was the only mercy he'd ever shown anyone. And now, standing in this small bakery with flour on the counters and sunlight streaming through the windows, he realized it had been the biggest mistake of his life. I can't do this, she said quietly. Do what? Pretend you're just someone who walked into my bakery. Pretend you don't matter. Her voice cracked. You do matter, Jinwoo. You always did. But that doesn't change anything. It changes everything. He reached out, hesitated, then let his hand fall. I have daughters. You took that from me. I didn't take anything. Her eyes filled with tears. I protected them. From what? From you. The words hit harder than any blow he'd ever taken. You think I would hurt them? His voice was dangerously low. No. She shook her head quickly. No, that's not... She took a breath, steadying herself. You're a good man, Jinwoo. I've always known that. But you're also a king in a world that doesn't forgive weakness. And children make you weak. Is that what you think they are? Weakness? No. Her voice broke. They're everything. And that's why I left. Because if your enemies ever found out about them... She stopped, unable to finish. Jinwoo's jaw tightened. He understood. God help him, he understood. I would have protected you, he said quietly. All of you. I know. She smiled, sad and small. That's what I was afraid of. You would have burned the world down to keep us safe. And eventually, the world would have burned you back. So you chose to run. I chose to survive. She wiped her eyes. And now you need to let us keep surviving. Please. Jinwoo stared at her for a long moment. Then he pulled out his phone and set it on the counter between them. What's that? Amara asked. My private number, in case you need me. Jinwoo. I'm not going anywhere, Amara. But I'm not going to force my way into their lives either. He met her gaze. I'll wait, however long it takes. And when you're ready to tell me the truth, the real truth, I'll be here. He turned to leave. Jinwoo. He stopped. Why are you really here? In Philadelphia? He looked back at her. Business. What kind? The kind I don't talk about. She nodded slowly. How long are you staying? As long as it takes. For what? To make sure you're safe. He opened the door. I'll see you tomorrow, Amara. And then he was gone. Amara stood alone in the quiet bakery, staring at the phone on the counter. She didn't pick it up. But she didn't throw it away either. 3 days passed. 3 days of Jinwoo sitting in the corner of the bakery every morning, drinking coffee he didn't taste, watching Amara move through her world like a ghost from his past. She didn't speak to him beyond polite customer service. She didn't acknowledge the phone number still sitting on the counter in the back room. But she didn't ask him to leave again either. On the 4th day, everything changed. Jinwoo arrived at the bakery to find it closed. The lights were off. The sign on the door read, Family Emergency. Closed today. His blood turned cold. He pulled out his phone and called the number his men had given him for Amara's cell. It rang, and rang, and rang. No answer. He tried again. Nothing. He was about to call his head of security when the door to the bakery cracked open. Amara stood in the doorway, pale and exhausted, her eyes red-rimmed. They're sick, she said before he could speak. Both of them. High fever. The doctor said it's just a virus, but... Her voice broke. I can't leave them. Jinwoo stepped forward. Let me help. No. Amara. I said no. She started to close the door, but he caught it. Please. The word came out rough, desperate. Let me see them. She hesitated. For the first time since he'd walked back into her life, she looked at him not as the man she'd left behind, but as the father he'd never been allowed to be. They don't know you, she whispered. Then let me fix that. She stared at him for a long moment. Then she stepped aside. The apartment above the bakery was small, but warm. Soft lighting. Comfortable furniture. Photos on the walls. Amara and the girls at the park, at the beach, laughing in the rain. A life he hadn't been part of. The girls were on the couch, wrapped in blankets, watching cartoons. Isla's cheeks were flushed, her eyes glassy. Ivy was curled into a ball, clutching a stuffed bear. They looked so small, so fragile. Jinwoo felt something crack inside his chest. Mama? Isla looked up. Who's that? Amara knelt down beside her. This is a friend. He came to check on you. Isla studied him with the same intensity Jinwoo had seen in the mirror his entire life. You came yesterday too.
You have 2 options. Keep watching short clips. Unlock the full story now. 14 full episodes. New content every week. Listen anytime, anywhere, no interruptions. Exclusive members-only area. Choose the story theme once a week. Scan the QR code now. Access is closing.
And the day before. I did. Do you like our mama? Jinwoo's gaze flicked to Amara. Very much. Isla smiled. Me too. Ivy coughed, soft and weak, and Jinwoo's chest tightened. Without thinking, he knelt down beside the couch. Can I get you anything? he asked gently. Water? Juice? Ivy looked at him with tired eyes. Will you stay? The question was so simple, so innocent, so devastating. Jinwoo glanced at Amara. She didn't say anything, didn't nod, didn't give permission, but she didn't say no. I'll stay, he said quietly. He stayed through the afternoon, through fever checks and medicine doses and stories read in soft voices. He stayed while Amara made soup in the tiny kitchen, her movements slower than usual, exhaustion pulling at her like a weight. He stayed because, for the first time in 3 years, he wasn't a king. He was just a man sitting on the floor beside his daughters, wiping tears and smoothing hair and whispering promises he wasn't sure he could keep. You're good at this, Amara said quietly. They were in the kitchen. The girls had finally fallen asleep, their breathing steady and soft. At what? Being a father. Jinwoo looked down at his hands. I don't know how. Neither did I. She smiled, sad and small. But we figure it out, because we have to. You shouldn't have had to do it alone. I wasn't alone. She gestured to the photos on the wall. I had them. That's not the same. I know. They stood in silence, the weight of everything unsaid pressing down like gravity. Why won't you tell me? Jinwoo asked finally. The real reason you left? Amara looked at him, and for the first time he saw it. The truth she'd been hiding. Not fear. Not regret. Grief. Because if I tell you, she whispered, you'll never let me go. I won't let you go anyway. Jinwoo, you don't understand. He stepped closer. I spent 3 years convincing myself I could live without you. That I could build my empire and forget your name. And maybe I could have. Maybe I would have. His voice dropped. But then I walked into that bakery, and I saw them, and everything I thought I knew, everything I thought I wanted, disappeared. Don't, she breathed. I don't care about the empire. I don't care about the power. I don't care about any of it. He reached out, gently tilting her chin up until she met his eyes. I care about you, and them, and whatever secret you're carrying that's killing you from the inside. Tears slipped down her cheeks. I'm dying, Jinwoo. The world stopped. What? I have a heart condition. Congenital. Progressive. Incurable. Her voice was steady now. Resigned. When I found out I was pregnant, the doctors told me carrying twins would kill me. That I needed to terminate. That it was the only way to survive. Jinwoo couldn't breathe. I didn't tell you because I knew what you'd do. You would have made me choose. You would have sacrificed them to save me. She smiled through her tears. And I couldn't let you carry that. So I left. I disappeared. I gave birth to our daughters and prayed I'd live long enough to see them grow. How long? His voice was hoarse. I don't know. Could be a year, could be 10. The doctors can't say. There has to be treatment, surgery, something. There's nothing. She touched his face gently. I've made my peace with it. Well, I haven't. Jinwoo. No. His voice was steel. I didn't find you after 3 years just to lose you again. If you won't fight for yourself, then I'll fight for you. You can't fix this. Watch me. She started to protest, but he silenced her with a look. The same look that made emperors kneel and armies scatter. But when he touched her face, his hands were gentle. You should have told me. I know. You should have trusted me. I do trust you. That's the problem. She leaned into his touch. You'd burn the world for me. And I can't let you do that. Too late, he whispered. And then, for the first time in 3 years, Jinwoo kissed the only woman he'd ever loved. It was soft, careful, a promise wrapped in grief. When he pulled back, Amara was crying. "I'm not letting you go," he said quietly. "Not this time. Not ever. You might not have a choice. Then we'll make the most of whatever time we have." She didn't argue. She was too tired, too broken, too hopeful. So she just nodded and let herself believe for one moment that maybe miracles were real. Jinwoo didn't leave Philadelphia. He canceled meetings in New York, Seoul, and London. He delegated operations to his most trusted lieutenants. He moved his entire command structure to the East Coast and told his men one thing: find a cure. The world's best cardiologists, experimental treatments, clinical trials that hadn't been approved yet. He didn't care about the cost. He didn't care about the risk. He cared about keeping Amara alive. But medicine was slow, and time was a luxury they didn't have. 2 weeks after the truth came out, Amara collapsed. It happened in the bakery, mid-morning, while she was pulling a tray of scones from the oven. One moment she was steady. The next, her knees buckled, and she hit the floor hard. Jinwoo was there in seconds. He'd been sitting in his usual corner, laptop open, pretending to work while really just watching her move through the space she'd built without him. "Amara!" He was on the ground beside her, hands shaking as he checked her pulse. Steady. Weak, but steady. Her eyes fluttered open. "I'm fine." "You're not fine." "Jinwoo, we're going to the hospital, now." "I can't." She tried to sit up, but he stopped her. "The girls, they're upstairs. I can't leave them." "I'll call someone." "Who?" "Anyone." His voice cracked. "I don't care. You need a doctor." She reached up, touching his face. "I've seen doctors. They can't help." "Then I'll find ones who can." "Jinwoo." Her voice was so soft, so tired. "You can't save me." "Yes, I can." He lifted her carefully, cradling her against his chest. "I can, and I will, even if it means tearing this world apart." She didn't argue. She just closed her eyes and let him carry her. The hospital was pristine, private, the kind of place where money bought silence and discretion. Jinwoo had called ahead. By the time they arrived, a full cardiac team was waiting. Amara was admitted immediately. The girls stayed with Mrs. Patterson, the bakery's co-owner, a kind woman in her 60s who had become something like a grandmother to the twins. Jinwoo stayed by Amara's side. He didn't leave when the doctors ran tests. He didn't leave when they wheeled her into imaging. He didn't leave when visiting hours ended, and the nurses politely suggested he go home. He just sat in the uncomfortable chair beside her bed and watched her sleep. At some point, his phone buzzed. A message from his second-in-command. "Situation in Seoul requires your attention. Rival family making moves. Need you back." Jinwoo stared at the message for a long time. 3 months ago, he would have been on the next flight. 3 months ago, power was the only thing that mattered. 3 months ago, he was a king who believed empires were built on fear. Now, he was just a man sitting beside the woman he loved, watching her fight a battle he couldn't win for her. He typed back, "Handle it." The response came immediately. "It's not that simple." Jinwoo's jaw tightened. He stood, stepping out into the hallway, and dialed. His second-in-command answered on the first ring. "Boss? I don't care what they're doing. Shut it down. It's the Park family. They're moving on our territory. If we don't respond, then respond." Jinwoo's voice was ice. "You don't need me for that. With all due respect, they're not going to back down unless you're here. They think you're weak, that you've gone soft. Maybe I have." Silence. "Boss? Handle it, Min-jae. I'm not coming back." "What about the Empire?" Jinwoo looked through the window into Amara's room. She was still sleeping, her chest rising and falling in a rhythm that felt too fragile. The Empire doesn't matter. Boss, it doesn't matter. His voice broke. None of it matters if she dies. Another long silence. Then quietly, understood. I'll take care of it. Thank you. He hung up and walked back into the room. Amara's eyes were open. You should go, she said softly. I'm not going anywhere. Your world is falling apart. Let it. Jin Woo. I mean it. He sat down beside her, taking her hand. I built that empire because I thought power was the only thing worth having. But I was wrong. Power is nothing. Control is nothing. Fear is nothing. He pressed her hand to his lips. You are everything, and I'm not losing you. Tears slipped down her cheeks. What if you don't have a choice? Then I'll make one. She smiled, sad and broken. You can't fight death. Watch me. The doctors came in an hour later with results. The lead cardiologist, Dr. Evans, a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor, pulled up a chair. Ms. Chen, I'm not going to sugarcoat this. Your condition has progressed. The strain from carrying twins accelerated the damage to your heart. Right now, you're in stage 3 heart failure. Amara's hand tightened around Jinwoo's. How long? Jinwoo asked. Dr. Evans hesitated. Without intervention, 6 months, maybe a year. And with intervention, there's a procedure. Experimental. We'd essentially rebuild parts of your heart using stem cells and bioengineered tissue. It's risky. The survival rate is 60%. And even if it works, recovery is long and painful. Do it, Jinwoo said immediately. It's not your choice, Amara said quietly. He looked at her. Then make it. I have children, Jinwoo. If I die on that table, if you don't try, you die anyway. His voice was raw. At least this way you have a chance. A 60% chance. Better than 0. She closed her eyes. What if I'm not strong enough? You are. He cupped her face gently. You survived leaving me. You survived giving birth alone. You survived 3 years of raising our daughters without help. You are the strongest person I've ever met. And if anyone can survive this, it's you. Amara looked at Dr. Evans. When? We'd need to schedule it within the next 2 weeks. The sooner the better. Do I have time to think about it? Of course, but Ms. Chen, Dr. Evans leaned forward. I've been a cardiologist for 25 years. I've seen a lot of cases like yours. And I can tell you this. Doing nothing is not an option. Not if you want to see your daughters grow up. Amara's breath hitched. Okay, she whispered. Okay, let's do it. Dr. Evans nodded. I'll start prepping the team. When they were alone again, Amara turned to Jinwoo. If I don't make it, don't. Jinwoo, listen to me. Her voice was steady now, resolved. If I don't make it, I need you to promise me something. Anything. Take care of them, love them, teach them to be strong, but also teach them to be kind. She smiled through her tears. Don't let them become like you. They won't. His voice broke. Because you're going to be there to make sure of it. She didn't answer. She just held his hand and tried to believe him. The surgery was scheduled for a Thursday morning. Jinwoo spent the days leading up to it in a state of controlled chaos. He liquidated assets, transferred power, and made arrangements he never thought he'd make. His men were confused. His rivals were circling. His empire was bleeding from 1,000 cuts. He didn't care. He only cared about one thing, making sure Amara had everything she needed to survive. The night before the surgery, he took the girls to see her. They were too young to understand what was happening, too innocent to grasp the weight of the moment. But they knew something was wrong. They'd felt the shift in the air, The way their mother held them a little tighter. The way this stranger who had become a constant presence looked at them with eyes full of things they couldn't name. "Mama, why are you in the hospital?" Isla asked, climbing onto the bed. "I'm just a little sick, baby." Amara smoothed her hair. "But the doctors are going to help me feel better. When can you come home?" "Soon." "Promise?" Amara's eyes flicked to Jin Woo. He gave a small nod. "I promise," she whispered. Ivy, quieter than her sister, crawled into Jin Woo's lap. He froze, unsure what to do, but she just curled against him like it was the most natural thing in the world. "Are you our daddy?" she asked suddenly. The room went still. Amara's breath caught. Jin Woo's heart stopped. "Why do you ask that?" Amara said gently. "Because you look at him the way I look at my teddy bear." Ivy tilted her head up at Jin Woo. "Like he makes you not scared." Jin Woo's throat tightened. "Yes," Amara said softly. "He's your daddy." Isla gasped. "Really? Really?" "Where were you?" Isla demanded, suddenly indignant. "We've been waiting forever." Jin Woo blinked back the sting in his eyes. "I didn't know you were waiting, but I'm here now." "Are you going to stay?" "Forever." Isla studied him for a long moment. Then she nodded, apparently satisfied, and went back to coloring. But Ivy stayed in his lap, her small hand resting on his chest, right over his heart. "You're going to take care of Mama, right?" she whispered. "Always." "Promise?" "I promise." She smiled. "Okay." That night, after the girls were gone, Jin Woo sat alone with Amara in the dim hospital room. "Thank you," she said quietly. "For what?" "For staying, for fighting, for being the man I always knew you could be." "I'm not a good man, Amara." "Maybe not." She took his hand. "But you're a good father, and that's enough." He kissed her knuckles. "I need you to survive tomorrow." "I'll try." "Not good enough. I need you to fight." "I will. Promise me." She met his gaze. "I promise." He leaned forward, resting his forehead against hers. "I love you. I've always loved you, even when I was too much of a coward to say it." "I know." She smiled. "I love you too." They stayed like that for a long time, holding each other in the quiet, pretending the morning would never come. But it did. The surgery took 11 hours. Jin Woo paced the waiting room like a caged animal. His men stood guard outside, silent and uneasy. His phone buzzed relentlessly. Messages from Seoul, threats from rivals, updates on situations he no longer cared about. He ignored all of it. At hour 6, Dr. Evans came out briefly. "She's stable. We're halfway through. So far, so good." At hour 9, complications. Her heart stopped for 40 seconds. They brought her back. Jin Woo nearly destroyed the waiting room. At hour 11, Dr. Evans emerged, exhausted, but smiling. She made it. Jin Woo's knees almost buckled. "She's in recovery. It'll be a few hours before she wakes up, but the procedure was successful. Her heart is functioning. She's alive." He couldn't speak. He just nodded, over and over, until Dr. Evans squeezed his shoulder and walked away. When they finally let him see her, Amara was pale and still, machines beeping softly around her. But her chest was rising and falling. Steady. Strong. Alive. Jin Woo sat beside her and took her hand. "You did it," he whispered. "You fought. And you won." Her fingers twitched. He held his breath. Then her eyes fluttered open. "Jin Woo?" "I'm here." She smiled, weak but real. "Did I keep my promise?" "You did." "Good." Her eyes drifted closed again. "Now you have to keep yours." "I will." And he meant it. The first week after surgery was the hardest. Amara woke in intervals, her body fighting against the pain, against the trauma of being opened and rebuilt. Jinwoo never left her side. He learned the rhythm of her breathing, the way her face would tighten before the pain hit, the exact moment to call for the nurses. He learned patience in that hospital room. Not the cold, calculated patience of a man who waited for his enemies to make mistakes, but the raw, desperate patience of someone who would wait forever if it meant she would heal. The girls came to visit every day. Mrs. Patterson brought them after daycare, their small hands clutching drawings and flowers they'd picked from the park. They would climb carefully onto the bed, mindful of the wires and tubes, and tell their mother about their day in voices that tried so hard to be brave. Jinwoo watched them and felt something break and rebuild inside his chest with every visit. On the 8th day, Amara took her first steps. It was only 10 feet. From the bed to the window and back. But she did it without help, her hand gripping Jinwoo's arm for balance, her breath coming in short gasps. "I did it," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "You did." He kissed her temple. "You're the strongest person I've ever known." "I don't feel strong." "You are. You just don't see it yet." By the 2nd week, the color had returned to her face. The doctors were cautiously optimistic. Dr. Evans came by every morning, checking monitors, asking questions, nodding with growing satisfaction. "Your heart is responding beautifully," she said on day 14. "I think we can talk about discharge soon." Amara looked at Jinwoo. "Home?" "Home," he confirmed. That night, after the girls had been picked up and the hospital had gone quiet, Amara turned to him. "What happens now?" Jinwoo had been asking himself the same question. He'd spent 2 weeks in this hospital room, making calls, moving money, restructuring everything he'd built. His empire was being divided. Power redistributed. Territories reassigned. He was walking away. Not because he had to, but because he wanted to. "Now," he said carefully, "we figure out what normal looks like. You don't do normal, neither do you." He smiled. "I guess we'll figure it out together." She reached for his hand. "I'm scared." "Of what?" "That this won't last. That you'll wake up one day and realize you gave up everything for someone who might not survive anyway." "Amara, I'm serious, Jinwoo. What if I have a relapse? What if this was all for nothing?" He pulled his chair closer, taking both her hands in his. "Then we fight again, and again, and again. For as long as it takes. But you don't get to doubt this. You don't get to doubt us. Her voice broke. "I don't want you to regret me. Never." The word was absolute, final. "You are the only thing I've ever done right. And those girls, they're the only empire I need." She cried then, not from sadness, from relief. From the overwhelming weight of being loved by someone who meant it with every breath. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay." 3 weeks post-surgery, Amara came home. The apartment above the bakery had never felt smaller. Jinwoo had spent the previous days making adjustments. A new bed with better support, handrails in the bathroom, a chair by the window where she could sit and watch the street below. The girls decorated everything with ribbons and drawings. "Welcome home, Mama," was spelled out in crayon across the living room wall. Jinwoo had wanted to stop them, to preserve the paint. But Amara would love it. So he let them cover every surface with love and color and joy. When they carried her up the stairs, Isla and Ivy were waiting at the door, bouncing with excitement. "Mama!" They rushed forward, then stopped, suddenly careful. "Are you okay?" "I'm perfect." Amara knelt down slowly, gathering them both in her arms. "I missed you so much." "We missed you too," Ivy said. "Daddy made us breakfast. but it wasn't as good as yours. Jinwoo raised an eyebrow. I thought you said it was delicious. We were being nice, Isla said seriously. Amara laughed. Really laughed, for the first time in weeks. And Jinwoo felt something inside him settle. A piece he hadn't known was missing sliding back into place. This was home. Not the penthouse in Seoul. Not the estate in New York. Not any of the properties he'd acquired over the years to prove he'd won. This small apartment above a bakery in Philadelphia, with flour dust on the counters and crayon on the walls and two little girls who looked at him like he'd hung the moon. This was home.
You have two options. Keep watching short clips. Unlock the full story now. 14 full episodes. New content every week. Listen anytime, anywhere, no interruptions. Exclusive members-only area. Choose the story theme once a week. Scan the QR code now. Access is closing.